All right. Welcome to the Nottingham Zoning Board of Adjustment. I'd like to call to order public hearing for case 16008 VA. Application from Cosma and John Stimulus requesting a variance from Article 2, Section C1C and C2 of the zoning ordinance to permit a two-lot subdivision of 7.416 acres for residential use. The property is located at 73 Jabig Road in Nottingham and is identified as tax map 17 lot 30. So just for those of you who aren't familiar with how we operate, the applicant comes forward, presents their case. Board members ask questions through myself, and then abutters for and against, focusing their questions through myself. And yep. And I'd also like to sit as our alternate, Kevin Bassett, in place of Terry Bonzer. We don't have to vote on that. No. Okay. All right. You guys come on up.
Hello, I'm Joanne Stimulus, my husband
Cosmo
Cos.
Stimulus, yeah.
And as you said, we're here tonight because we would like to subdivide our close to 7.5 acre lot into two residential lots. And during this process, we discovered that without two variances, we would not be able to meet the 30K contiguous building envelope that is required on the other lot. So we are asking you to consider two variances. One would be for a variance for the side property lot, and the other would be for a 20, I think it's a 20, yes, a 20-foot setback. And then the other variance would be for the poorly drained soil area, which currently requires a 50-foot setback, and we would like you to consider a 25-foot buffer for that, as has been used by the town of Kingston.
Okay.
Okay,
Yep. Is that it?
Yeah.
I think so.
All right. So I have a question. When we look up the tax map, it's listed as 6.72 acres.
Yes,
But you guys have on your application 7.416.
Yes.
When I drove by, I noticed fresh flags. So did you have it recently surveyed?
we did have it surveyed by Peter Landry.
Landry.
And so that is the most current one. It has changed 3 times since we've lived there,
Oh,
so.
interesting. All right.
Is there history of that we need to see? Question?
I don't think it really affects hugely. I mean, there will be some adjustment. If you guys could provide that, I don't know if you already have, provide that most updated map to
Oh,
the...
certainly, I think you do have some maps, but if you require anything else, we can get that for you.
What would, so I see Paul's note here. What would he need from the applicant?
Well, when they get ready to subdivide, there's gonna be full plans.
Okay,
So
we'll get it then.
for this,
All right.
for this meeting, you have what's, should be considered sufficient.
Yep, yeah, I agree with that. All right,
And what that means is the discrepancy will be resolved at that point in time?
correct.
Okay.
When the new tax maps are drawn up and everything will be cleaned up once their subdivision goes through, if it goes through.
Right, okay.
My question on that, though, is when we're looking at buildable land area and land area, depending upon how big the lot is, will depend on how this gets subdivided. Would it not?
I think it's the job of the zoning board to do all that lot line adjustment piece.
So I think what she's trying to clarify is this the actual size of it, or is it the previous one? Like how?
This looks like the most
How does the
recent.
size change?
This looks like the most recent because
This
it's
is the
listing
most
seven
recent.
point 416.
When we bought the house,
This map here shows it as less than that, and if it is less than that, then this drawing here won't make any sense.
So this is the most recent boundary map,
That's right.
and this will go to the planning board as a large-scale drawing, and they will do any of the lot line adjustments. I am curious, though, as to where the property came from, but we're talking only a fraction of an acre.
Right. Exactly.
What you have in front of you for boundary map is actually not correct. That's not gonna have the proper measurements, because that's our town tax map.
This one.
This one?
Which one?
This one. The one that's labeled Plan Number 1?
Okay, no, that should be correct. What Mom was holding up
Right.
was the tax map
Correct.
measurements.
So this is not correct.
That will not
This
have the
one.
correct boundary measurements.
Okay.
But this is what
So
we're,
looking at this is what,
Yes.
okay,
Is the most current.
all right,
this is what our decision is based on tonight.
okay.
Yeah. Nice, I get, okay. I get why you're confused.
Thank you.
I'm happy to match.
Well, it makes a difference when you're looking at, especially waivering anything,
Right.
granting variances.
So was the property not surveyed before?
It had been surveyed, when
No,
we,
it wasn't, when we bought it.
It was just it meets and bounds
They had
description.
it at 7, whatever it is.
it was actually 7.8 when we bought it.
7.6.
That's what your deed said.
7.6,
And then we
which is the
had,
highest.
then we got the mortgage, and we got another mortgage, and the appraiser said it was 6 point,
But he wasn't a surveyor.
he wasn't a surveyor, right? So
So this is the first time it's really been surveyed by a surveyor.
this
As
is the
opposed
first,
to
this is the first time that
by
I
a
know.
farmer, a meets and bounds description, which a lot of the
Through us.
old land was.
Yeah, this is the official surveying, but I don't think it's been surveyed before.
Right, okay. That was part of the clarification that I think.
Yeah.
Because
that
tax
helps.
maps are notoriously inaccurate.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
the difference is almost over .7.
Right, 0.7 acres. Yeah, that's
Just to be
significant.
clear.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. Now,
Now
My
Dover, you
question
get
is-
2 houses in there.
I know, half a dozen in Merrimack, but anyways, how does that affect, you see, C1C is for that's the 30,000?
Yes.
So if it's one or the other, does it help them or hurt them? And how can I base, does the 30,000 go up or down from what it's?
It
what-
looks
what
to
the
me
divvy is, you know what I
like
mean?
the Plan Number 1 in front of us is the 7.416, which I think helps the applicant,
That's,
and is what this contiguous area is drawn on and at.
But until I know which one's right,
I would say that most likely, the town will adopt the most recent survey as correct, and
the
and
only
then
survey.
adjust the tax maps. We're gonna assume that this one is correct, but you've mentioned it, and now it's in the record.
understood.
If there's a discrepancy, we have something to work with, but I think that's usually the process.
Okay. How would we handle that discrepancy in the future after a decision tonight?
I think the discrepancy can be explained by the fact that previously this property was never surveyed.
I'm not sure if that's fact.
The town tax map is based on aerial assessment by somebody reasonable.
It's inexact.
But they don't spend a lot of time on these things, and they probably looked at their deed and looked at this aerial and guesstimated. Whereas this one actually represents an actual survey.
I still don't have fact on which one is correct, so. But that's in the future, I understand.
Okay. That's a good question. I mean, we can have that discussion. Can you put that on our agenda for when we have a joint meeting with the planning board? Is that next week?
Yes.
Next Wednesday, if you'd like to come.
I'm out of the state.
Good for you.
Well,
But
no,
I'll make sure I read, I'll get your question addressed though.
I would have attended.
It's the 28th, Joanna? The 28th?
Oh, no, it's not. We're not meeting on the 28th.
No, we're not, you're right.
Oh, phew.
It's
Sorry.
It's October.
Normally it would be next week. It's October 12th.
All right,
October
thank you.
12th, okay, I got that.
I'd like to point something out, that the property is surrounded by a stone wall, so that's probably why they never surveyed it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well-
Stone wall all around, yeah.
I spent many years in the real estate business, and a lot of property was not surveyed till it had to be, till it was either subdivided, as you're doing. It was previously just kind of the old farmers were really good at it,
Yeah.
but I know that I once bought a piece of property in Lee that the deed said was something like 44 acres, and it turned out to be 30-some acres. I mean, so there can be big discrepancies. And the tax maps are based on the old deeds and somebody's assessment of these aerials, and are notoriously inaccurate. But that's what your taxes were based on, the tax map.
Right.
But now that you've clarified it, this will be recorded in the Registry of Deeds.
Right.
This will become the town's information as opposed to the old deed, is my guess.
I guess the old farmers were close because.
I think if Paul were here, he could clear this up, actually.
Right. But that's pretty accurate what she described.
Yeah. The old
And
farmers.
Paul
had-
told us to go by this most recent one when we filled out the application.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I mean, this is done by a civil engineer, this is a actual survey. And the tax maps are not surveys.
Right. So we can expect a higher tax.
But then cut in half.
Yes.
I don't think you'll get
Hopefully.
too squeezed for backland, actually.
So if, this is tax map, you said,
This will become the new,
but this is actual survey.
yes.
Yeah, Pete did it apparently, Peter Landry.
Yes.
He doesn't have a stamp on it that I can see, but
That's what I was looking for as well.
I assume you have the complete document.
Yeah, those will be on the plans that they give to the planning board.
Yes, that's true.
oftentimes people bring the large map with them when they present to us, which is helpful for people like me who has a hard time seeing this tiny little print on here, you know,
And-
just for the road frontage and stuff.
And honestly,
That's where your
this
next
type
map
is
that
unreadable.
I couldn't come up, like, this was,
No, I'm talking about the map that Pete
The
made for
survey.
you, the survey.
This one.
yeah, that's what he made for us.
Right, but he did it on a big piece of paper.
And
No.
stamped,
So it's not an official survey then?
We have that,
No.
not that I know of.
What usually gets presented to the planning
We
board?
paid him.
The big one, he has not brought in the subdivision plans yet because this hasn't been approved.
Yes.
Once you get approval for your
Right.
variance, you'll get your subdivision plans and that will be noted
Right.
on the subdivision plans.
Right.
He's taking it step by step.
Yes.
Because instead of charging you for something you may not need if we don't approve this, for example. That's right.
Yep,
Thank you.
Thanks.
you're welcome.
Chicken and egg things.
Yep,
That's why we have her here.
Yeah.
right. All right, so do you guys want to, are there questions about the, because there's two variances before us. Do you want to take it one at a time?
Yes, please.
All right. So you guys want to do sidelines first, or let's do the wetlands first. The front, the wetlands in the front there?
So C2,
Yes.
so could you read what's in the block on the lower left?
Which, here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it says 30,300 square feet with 20-foot side setbacks with 25 front wetland setback.
Okay, 20,
20-foot side
no, the
and
first
25.
number, 20,000.
30,390, I think it
Okay.
is, square feet. So just over the 30,000.
And the other side, 44,190?
Yes.
Yes, I couldn't even see
Over
those.
90.
I should bring my Nancy Drew spyglass.
Well, if you take a look at, the house, the right-hand lot with the house number 73 in it, you can see that that house's building lot essentially already exists with that 25-foot buffer. You see that?
Say that again, Mike, please.
So the house on the actually constructed house, if you look at its building envelope, it's already existing with that 25-foot boundary, because that wetland or poorly drained soil, it's not a wetland. I mean, I drove by, it's like a depression. It's not really a wetland, in my opinion.
I have a photograph that was recently taken, if you would like to see it, so everyone,
I don't need to because we're in an extreme drought. Everything's dried up,
that's true,
including the North River.
that's true.
So I mean,
Well,
this would be a weird year, but I'm familiar with the property. I've driven by it for over a decade,
Yes,
and I know your neighbors, and I know that spot is not like a significant wetland. It's
Right,
just
it isn't.
it's just a wet
It's a
spot in the
puddle.
woods sometimes.
I used to have the whole field cut, and,
Yeah.
and now that it's not being cut, there's pines starting to grow in there, and there's
Yep.
some maples starting to grow in there,
Yeah,
in that wetlands, yeah. And it's only wet for less than a month in the spring. I know, because I cut the grass down there. Yeah.
right.
where's the septic for the existing house? Is that towards the wetlands, or is that away from it, or square
on-
behind it?
On Plan 1, the septic would be just within the 25-foot setback of the side property line.
20-foot setback, right?
Is it 20 foot?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay, so it's the left of the house as we're looking at it.
yes,
Is that what's marked in that square?
Yeah, I would say it's
Yeah.
it's
yes.
EDA or something
That's
like
the
that.
square, that's the septic area.
Okay.
What does that say?
50-foot buffer to the poorly drained soils to the rear of the property.
So, Joanne, do you have right there what the total frontage for each lot is?
Yes,
frontage.
if I can read it, the print is so small, I should have brought a magnifying glass.
Wait a minute.
What is that,
Well, the
200 and, do I have it on here?
I see the total.
231,
225,
total 231 point.
64.
Oh, yeah, and then the other one's 268,
Right,
231 and 268, yeah. And that all totals up to 500, so they're well over the 200-foot frontage.
Do you plan on a single curb cut?
What's that?
on a single curb cut?
Would the
Driveway.
other property have its own driveway access, or would it be a shared driveway?
We're thinking a separate driveway, yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
yeah.
And the little
Is it
square,
a desirement, it's not our decision, but is it a desirement to have a common curb cut?
Nope,
No,
no, it's
Sorry,
actually
planning?
preferred not to,
right.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's good.
We shy away from shared driveways, but we don't disallow them by zoning.
can I ask?
So
what this
for
is?
item 1, as you started,
Yeah.
the issue is the 20-foot setback that's in a semicircle.
Right.
And that's around the poorly drained area that's in front.
Yep.
Okay, understood.
So any other questions about that piece? No? All right, and how about C1? Or it would be,
C1C?
yes, Article C1C for the sideline setbacks for the contiguous area.
And this says on the map, 20-foot setback, I
Right, this
assume?
would be a 20-foot from that corner
Right,
to the
so.
property line, new proposed property line.
Yeah, so just to be clear, if it was 50, it would land somewhere in the middle of the existing septic. Understood.
Right,
That's for both lots, right? They both have a 20-foot setback.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any further issues. And it's sort of nice that it's straight.
Right.
It keeps the neighborhood properly aligned, for lack of better words.
Is it blurry, or is it?
And it looks like the deer can still run out back.
oh yeah. And in front?
We don't have this dimension,
It's proposed to be 20 feet.
so it's 20 on either side of the line.
Right. Do we have anything in our ordinance, or does the state have anything about a minimum square foot building lot envelope?
Minimum, it's the 200 by 200 square foot.
That's our ordinance, she's asking about the state.
Our ordinance, I don't know if the state has some.
Wouldn't it be, it would be in here, right?
I don't think it does.
You do or don't?
I don't.
Yeah, probably not.
You know, it could be new since I've been in business, but this is the first time I've seen a lot envelope even as part of the zoning ordinance. Which is just set, it used to be just setbacks
Right,
had to meet.
which I think I prefer. To be
Now,
honest.
it can be simpler.
Right,
Can I ask a question?
certainly.
So just to get a better idea of your land, is this broken line sort of through the middle of the lot from side to side? Is that a swale of some kind or a brook or?
Oh, the broken line is, yes, that would be a wetland area in the back. And there is, you know, provided there is a 50-foot buffer
Right,
before it,
before it, and
because that's truly, according to the surveyor, a wetland.
truly wetland.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the small
what's the-
corner, is this out of your property and on the front, on the road front, on the right corner, there's a little square? Is that a graveyard or something?
We thought that it might be, but there hasn't been any evidence of that. We're not able to find any tombstones
Is
or
that
any
your property? Do you know?
records, yes.
Yes.
But why is it designated separately? You don't know? Is there anything on your deed?
Oh, that's the way the wall runs.
Oh, okay, got it. So that's
I
the,
remember now.
Oh, so it could be an animal pen as well.
it could have been a
Oh.
pound of some kind.
Never
yeah.
figured out what it was, yeah.
Yes, sir.
An old carriage shed
Yeah.
up on the road. But maybe you were asking, between the 30,000 feet and the wetland behind, what's the grade? Is it all flat, or is it?
Yes.
It
Would you
goes
say
down?
it's flat?
I mean, the wetlands are obviously lower, but
It's all flat.
It's
yeah.
flat.
it is. There's not a lot of elevation difference
No,
on the property.
no, there is not.
Maybe where you were headed, which, good question. And there must have been a reason why you picked the 50 foot in the back and the 25 in the front rather than split the difference or anything like that. So, I'll just take
Well, I think this is more significant wetland in the back because it's contiguous.
longer term and such.
And,
Okay.
right, and it's wetter, and this front one is more like a depression. And it's mostly populated by trees. I drove by it today, pine and maple,
Yeah.
like you said. I mean, it wouldn't be easily recognizable to the layperson as a wetland, except in spring
April.
runoff, right?
Sure.
You'd say, oh, there's a wet spot. But I remember when it was mowed,
Yeah,
so I mean, it's not often.
I never even knew it until it was, I let it grow in, yeah. You know, the house is raised when they built it, and I thought, and so did Peter, he thought there was a lot of runoff over the years. The house is 40 years old, you know, and the runoff would be going right in that so-called wet spot, you know?
Or from the roof?
That could be it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Do you need a motion?
No, no, we're just doing the public hearing piece right now. This is your opportunity to ask any questions. I saw in the file it was only positive comments from neighbors and
With the
abutters.
exception of 2 abutters that we weren't able to contact or did not hear from.
All right, I guess you guys are done with your portion.
Okay.
Did you have any comments or? All right. You guys want to have a seat and then he can,
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
oh, you're welcome.
You're welcome.
I'm a butter as you face it on the right-hand side.
Your name, sir? I'm sorry.
My name is Leonard Giles.
Okay, thank you.
I own the property next to them. I just came this afternoon, I looked in the clerk's office, and they're requesting a 25-foot buffer, but I'm not prepared to do that right now, because I don't, there's a question about the acreage. I looked in the, I don't have my plot with me, but I looked in the clerk's office. And anyway, so I'm not sure where these wetlands are. They're on my side. I haven't seen any schematic of what they're trying to do here. I just got.
Would you like to see it?
I just got
Mr.
your
Childs?
letter. What's that?
Would you like to see
Yeah, I
the
mean,
schematic? I'd be happy to share mine with you. Or it's or Joanne could give you one so you could see what they're proposing to do.
well, I'm not gonna make a decision right now on this, but I'd just like to look at it and see what,
Sure.
I mean,
So your land is
can
to
I have
the,
a what's that?
with your big road down at the bottom there, your land is to the right?
Yes.
And how much,
As you face it,
as you face their house, yours is to the right.
yeah.
He's on this plot. Mr. Childs.
Fold this one out. He's right there.
Oh, God. Mr. Childs.
So I'm not sure where this wetland is, if it's where the poorly drained places they're talking about.
Yep.
See on the front, to the left of the circle?
Yeah, I
There's
saw
that's the wetland there we've been discussing.
Okay.
That irregular shaped piece, that actually intersects with the well circle.
Up near the front of the
Yeah,
property.
yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
That's what you're talking about.
Right.
And then also the back part of the property. It's in the woods.
It's kind of in the middle, this piece.
Well, they're saying here a 25-foot buffer.
Correct.
But that's between the lot line that they're creating, it's not the lot line with you, or is it?
Yeah, it would be both.
Be 20
Is it
feet.
25 on the other side?
It looks like 20 as well.
Read it. We
Yeah,
need to
20
ask
feet
you to
along the,
read.
what it looks like.
20-foot side setbacks to get the building lot envelope. But if you look at how that house is built, the house is built biased towards the center line, and it's, I mean, the well, the house, the septic is all
There.
by scale 150 feet, 100 to 150 feet away from Mr. Giles' property line. It would not really impact him.
No, and it's 20 feet on the sides and the rear anyway. It's only the 50 in the front.
Right.
And
So,
the wetlands.
So,
so it begs the question,
Yeah.
if this is 44, where would this be
Right.
if it was 30?
I agree.
So why did you do it that way?
I don't
I was
know.
wondering the same thing.
Right.
Yeah, they don't even need to do the variance on that
They
side.
really don't.
They got plenty of building involved in
And
the
then
existing house.
this, then this gentleman is concerned, maybe, alleviated.
Well, it is,
If it
anyway,
was
with
50.
everything being to this side of his property line, it's not anywhere near his property line that
I
the
thought he was,
concerned
I
about.
thought he was to the right.
He is.
Well, he is, but their sideline is, doesn't need a variance. It's only that sideline for the lot that they're building that's the variance is needed for.
Well, it's needed for both sides on the new lot, and it's only one side possibly on the existing lot. On the dwelling unit one. It would only be the one sideline.
Why on both, because he's got a 30,000,
He needs 30,000 square
Right.
feet,
it's over that
I know.
barely.
Which
But
lot?
the one on the right is way over.
on this one,
Yeah,
right?
way over.
Right.
And so is this one, except that he's already got a well and septic, which is what is bringing up the questions.
Right. And they exist, and there they are, and they're not near Mr. Giles' property at all.
No,
That's what Mike was pointing out.
To me, this 20-foot, on the extreme right of the property, that 20-foot setback should be bigger.
That could easily be, is 25 is what's required?
50 is required.
no,
50 is
25 on the sides, 50 in the front,
Well, that's for accessory,
dwelling units.
Right.
it's not dwelling units.
Accessory
buildings.
buildings,
Accessory
including septic.
buildings. Is the way the ordinance is currently written, correct?
Would you just repeat that?
It's actually printed right here. He sent us a copy of it. This page here has all that information
Page 2,
on it.
Yes.
and the circled paragraph 2 with the highlight.
Yeah, I'm trying to find that.
2 and C is right
read it.
above it. Both
I
those
read it, just
pieces
wanna see
are
it.
part of this.
Just want to see what you read.
These are the two.
20 feet minimum.
Yeah, this is the other piece
Yeah,
he's
it
talking
was a
about.
30, but where's the 25 on the side?
It's 20.
20 on the side.
Mr. Giles, does the paperwork help with your concern?
A little bit, well, I'm confused here, this is, you're cutting this in half, right? Is that what you're doing here?
Yes.
Where this
Basically.
solid line is?
That's what they're hoping to do, yeah.
So you're gonna be building to the right of it, right? On the right-hand side?
No, left
The
side.
left
left.
side.
On the left-hand
The
side?
right side is already built on, that's where their
That's where
existing
their
house is.
existing house is.
Okay,
That's the one closest to your
That's
property.
the one closer to you.
okay,
So they wouldn't end up any closer to you. There'd be a house on the other side of them from you.
yes, I understand that.
Okay.
So the house now is the one that's, the EDA, or what is that? I don't
That's
know.
their septic.
Near
That's
the
their
leach
septic.
field.
In the well, okay.
Yep, and the well is in the front.
So the house now is, it's number 73, that's, okay. So you're seeing to the right of this is where, I mean, left as I look at it, okay.
Is where a new house could be built if this gets approved. So it's not really near you.
So the buffer then they're asking for is on the, as I look at it, is on the right-hand side? And in the back also, or what, it's,
That's a
it's
buffer.
25 here.
That's already there. To the rear is already their property. It's just a buffer to the, what's considered wetlands or poorly
Yeah,
drained
to the
soil.
right-hand side. Oh.
To the rear, I'm talking. To the right-hand side would be towards your house.
Right, right.
It's to the left as you're looking at it. Right. Not to the
As
right.
I'm looking at it, to the right-hand side.
As you're looking at it from the road,
Yeah, it would be, the buffer would be on the right-hand side, right?
There'd be a buffer on both sides.
Okay, so 25 feet each way,
20
20 each way.
is what they're looking for. Which is what happens, see, we have a weird situation in this town, in that if you come to us, or you come to the building office, and you have a substandard lot, our standard lot size is 2 acres. But say you have 1 acre, right? So if you have 1 acre, you already get a 20-foot setback without any hearing at all. And so basically what the Demoulas's are asking for is, even though they have a much larger than standard lot, They're still asking for
20.
the 20, just like a non-conforming lot would have, right? Which is basically what we consider our minimum.
Okay, well, I guess that answers some of my questions. I'm not sure I want to give this, say this, I can't, it doesn't make any difference if they're gonna get 20 anyway, right? Oh, no, they're gonna get,
Depends on the decision of this board.
yeah, okay,
They may get nothing, they may get 20.
okay.
But we're here to hear your concerns.
Yeah.
That's why you have an opportunity to take the floor.
Exactly, right.
I'm not sure I really understand what your concern is, though, because their lot line on the side facing you wouldn't be changing. The house is already there, the septic's
Yeah.
already there, the well's already there. So I'd like to understand what you're concerned about.
I didn't know that until 10 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Because he
If I
didn't see
hadn't
this.
known that, it would've been different.
Apparently, I just learned today that all this documentation is on the town website with the meeting agenda.
But is there something about you're remapping the town, or not mapping it, but putting on a new guidelines on the building, on the lots? I heard you talking earlier.
With our rulemaking, we don't, so we're the judicial branch of local government.
Right,
So the legislative branch is the planning board.
right.
And so we have a consultation with them coming up in a couple weeks to help them with some of the language of some of the ordinance changes, and then the voters vote on it.
And that may change what I saw today in there for the map, for that plot, right? Or,
Not really, not much.
okay.
No, I don't think so.
Not with what's already existing, it's for future.
Right. And it's for future stuff. It's not for what's existing.
No.
What's existing now, we have to follow that rule.
Right.
Whether I like it or not.
And existing lots wouldn't be changing, it's for future,
Right.
future buildings, for anybody, for future subdivisions or, businesses that come in for site plans. That's what the language is looking at changing for, not what already exists in town for structures.
Okay, I guess I'll have to wait and see some more plans before I decide this.
Okay.
All right, the planning board will be having a public hearing.
Yeah,
on
that's
that.
exactly right, that's, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you like this back?
Yes. I appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for coming in tonight. We don't get spectators often. It's just pretty good. All right, any further discussion amongst the board?
They failed to present the 5 criteria.
Oh, okay.
I'm a stickler for that. So even though we have it in writing, if we're not going to have our own,
You want me to read it?
yeah, that's okay with me.
All right. So supporting evidence, and so you guys feel free to correct me if I get anything wrong here, but I'm just looking at your answers to the 5 criteria, because that's what we have to base our decisions on. All right, granting the variance would not be contrary to the public interest because it would relieve the landowner from an unnecessary hardship that would not be outweighed by public gain if denied. 2, if the variance were granted, the spirit of the ordinance would be observed because there would be a 20-foot setback from existing septic to side property line and 25-foot buffer to the poorly drained area. Referred to Kingston, so the town of Kingston as a basis. Granting the variance would do substantial justice because it would provide the landowner with the required 30,000 contiguous area without substantially detracting or nullifying ordinances. If the variance is granted, the values of the surrounding properties would not be diminished because the variance is needed due to the unique condition of this property that are not typical of surrounding properties. and has not aroused concerns of the abutters. We were able to contact the approved variance would devalue or affect property negatively. See attached testimonies. In this case, unnecessary hardship. In this case, the poorly drained soil area is dry for 11 months of the year. This is referring to the front one, and is not a wildlife habitat. And B, placement of the existing residence met zoning laws at time of construction.
You mentioned the front one, but that says 9,600.
Right. That's the square footage for that front poorly drained soil area.
Okay.
The subdivision, so paragraph 5A2, proposed use is reasonable because subdivision for 2 residential lots is a reasonable assumption in granting a landowner his constitutional right to enjoy his property in a harmless way. Without the variance requested, the strict application of the ordinance would result in over 5 acres of property to be useless. I kind of agree with that one. So, what's at the very rear boundary of your property? Is it more forest slash wetland, or is it the North River?
That's the forest. The wetland.
It's a small stream.
Mostly forest out there. And then in the spring, there's like it's not a stream, but,
Standing water but moving a little bit.
standing water.
And now, does that come from the, is that the North River? Because I'm from further, okay. But it makes its, which way does it flow? Does it flow,
It flows across.
The North River's
Oh,
yeah,
in the back, way in the back.
but that's on somebody else's property, not
Yes.
abutting you? All right,
On your property, it's a little bit back. It's way, way back, you know.
okay,
Yeah, back is the roof. Yeah,
okay.
it doesn't affect your property.
All right, I guess we can close the public hearing portion.
Can I ask you to explain to Mr. Guile that our process requires us to grant variances and special exceptions if the people meet the 5 criteria, if the board members feel that, and then it's really our decision, because I think he thinks
Right,
he has a voice as an abutter
right.
to bring us information. I just want to make sure that he's clear.
Okay.
that
So,
they're
Mr. Guile,
understanding
I just
the
want-
process.
Ms. McKinnon was just alerting me to the fact that you're here to give testimony, but you don't have to make a decision. That's the board's, it's the board's opportunity to make a decision tonight.
I thought I understood that.
Okay, all right. All right, good.
I just didn't want you to feel like it was your decision when it's kind of ours, although we take all the information that people bring us into consideration.
Well, that comes up in the planning.
We have to know, come up again in the planning, different, you're right. The site plan approval.
All right, in this case, I'd like to close public hearing. Does anybody want to make a motion?
I don't, thank you.
You don't want to make a motion to close
No,
the
I don't.
public hearing?
You can close the public hearing, that'd be fine.
Okay. I'd like to close the public hearing on case 16008-VA. Application from Cosmo and Jones Demoulas requesting variance from Article C1C and C2 of the zoning ordinance to permit a 2-lot subdivision at tax map 17 lot 30, as noted. All right, so discussion amongst the board?
I, at this point in time, don't feel comfortable approving it only because I don't feel there's enough information on what there is for wet land or poorly draining. And
To the front or to the rear?
with regards to the buildable area in the front of your property, only because I know that that will be a huge stumbling block should this go forward. And I think that even if we approve it, it's still gonna be a big stumbling block not knowing how wet that is, because I know that even vernal pools, once they're dry, they're still considered protected, and I don't want that to be something that ends up having it be a problem for them if they go forward, so I'm not comfortable with this right now.
The only concern that I have is that if we approve it, and I feel comfortable with the map that is presented, that the wetland is as stated, that it's actually growing up to trees and might not even be wetland in a few years, is that we meet the 50-foot setback for septic in this newly created lot, even though if we were to grant the variance for relief from the setbacks, that they plan this so the septic system itself meets that setback, because we have that issue ongoing with the planning board, with the ordinance right now, that it needs to be cleaned up. And we've already made a decision in the past that prevented septic systems from being closer than 50 feet. Does that make sense? Am I saying that clearly?
Yep.
So, Bonnie, am I reading this wrong in that this little diagram here doesn't show that that is more than a 30,000 or whatever it is?
It's at 30,390 feet.
So they've got,
So that
they've got
is-
the building lot envelope dimension.
Right, but we don't know what perk tests are gonna show for the septic.
Exactly.
We don't.
That's what you're saying.
And that's
Gotcha.
the issue that I've had with the ordinance change.
Gotcha, I
Is
understand
that
that.
they snuck, to me, they snuck in having septic 20 feet from a sideline. I never intended to have septic or a house 20 feet from a sideline. The ordinance change's original intent was to have accessory structures, garages and sheds 20 feet from a sideline. I never meant for houses and septics to be 20 feet from a sideline. I think that's poor practice in a town where we have large areas. To me, I rather see 50 feet, and I rather see a further intrusion into the wetland for the lot envelope than I would having the septic closer to another neighbor. That's my preference.
And there's ambiguity in the ordinance right now about, because we changed the sideline setback, we reduced it by vote, but it's unclear whether septic systems are included, because the envelope still has to meet the 50 feet. And if we give relief to that 50 feet, I'm cool with that, as long as we add the restriction that the septic system has to meet the setback, not the lot envelope. I mean, to me, that's reasonable. And we're not contradicting. And it's not that we can't contradict, but this is an issue that's in the process of hopefully being resolved by the planning board. It's up to them to take a look at their ordinance and maybe make things a little more consistent, or at least clearer.
Joanne, can you also make a note for our joint meeting to talk about lot envelope dimensions and why our town uses that, and instead of front and rear setbacks? I think we create more problems than we solve with it, to be honest. I think it gives a builder and a homeowner more flexibility not to have a building lot envelope. But maybe people on that board have different opinions on that.
And so I think, Teresa, in order to get the 30,000 square foot envelope, they had to infringe on that 50-foot setback from wetland. But as Mike has tried to say, it's not really, it's a wetland, but it's not like a really wet wetland.
And it's not a vernal,
I
It's not
get
a
that,
prime
it's
wetland.
and it's not a vernal pool.
but it still says poorly draining soils, and I
Right.
know that is a stickler.
In the
and-
planning board. Well, I think if we grant them that variance, the planning board has to go with it. Well, they don't have to approve anything, but they can't change that.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Maybe you are afraid that they won't approve it because of that. But I think their surveyor thinks they don't have another option. That's why they're here. and they have over 7 acres of land.
I mean, to
I
me,
know.
It's enough for 3 lots,
I agree.
And so
Except, well, it
which could be
could be,
enough.
depending upon what the terrain is like.
and I think again, that comes to that unnecessary hardship in that, like, over 50% of their rear property line is considered poorly drained soil. So it really, they have 7 acres that they're paying taxes on, but it really squeezes them way up to the front. I think that's the unnecessary hardship, and I agree with
Oh,
that.
I agree with you.
So if they meet the criteria for a variance, we are required by law to give it to them. But it's each of our opinion.
Right.
Do you think they meet it? Do I think they meet it? If you don't think they meet all of them, you know, you don't have to vote for it. But if you think they do, you're supposed to. Because the whole reason for this board's existence is to provide relief if it's reasonable and just.
I agree.
Yes, so.
And I
That's the way I look
agree
at
that we
it.
should be able to do pretty much, you know, like what we want to do with our properties, as long as it doesn't hurt our neighbors or the land.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So,
I have some issues.
Okay.
First, just a clarification. First variance, 20 feet around the,
25, around that.
25?
Yep.
And then 20 on both sides, correct? So
Right.
that's 3 things on the lot on the left. On the lot on the right, 20 or 25 from the septic is the first.
20
20
to the side lot line.
on the left
From the point, yeah.
and 20 on the right. So those are two issues. Mr. Giles' issue, if I was to interpret it, would be a question that I would have. If this was 30,000 instead of 44, would this then be 50 and alleviate his concerns?
Mm-hmm.
And we just don't know that from the picture.
Right. And that's why I'm bringing up the point of the lot envelope, square footage piece, giving us a restriction here where I don't really see that we need to have one.
on the lot.
On the lot on the right,
Right,
like
I
you're,
agree with you.
I'm prepared to make a motion to not vote on this tonight, so we have a little more clarification, possibly a re-plot line at a 30,000-ish, and see if we could alleviate one of those variances, be it on the far right or the right plot.
what's
If the board
the,
would like to hear such a motion.
Oh, you didn't.
if we don't,
No, I said.
he was
if the
thinking
board-
about it. He almost made a motion. That's the way I understood it.
Yes.
I think he's opening it up for
So-
discussion.
When we hear a case, we have 30 days to make a decision.
You have 30 days to hear it, and you've heard the part of it, you can continue it to another date certain, if you feel that is necessary.
So you'd like to see the right side lot towards the Guile side addressed by bringing that building lot envelope size down?
Yes, and that would address the abutters, I believe, only major concern.
My issue with that whole thing, though, is the house is already there,
Right.
and that lot line is not changing at all. The only thing,
But it's still a variance, and it might be 50. And
the only reason they're looking for a variance is because they're looking to divide their house,
I'm
the
thinking-
property, rather, which changes their left, well, would it be your left, changes their left boundary line. The right boundary line is not changing for the house.
I'm just thinking of the future. I mean, you could put an outshed out there, there are other things that'll happen in the future. And if it's established that it's 50, it'll be 50 today on, rather than 20 from day on.
I think what Kevin's,
And I'm just addressing the neighbor's concern.
what he's saying is, they don't really need that variance. It doesn't look like, right?
On that right-hand
On
side.
this side, they need these, and they need that one.
Correct.
And while it's true that it really won't change the impact of this lot, because this lot's already improved, I'm wondering why Pete drew it that way.
It's probably very simple, we could hear it again in 2 weeks or whatever. It's
Do you see what we're discussing?
I could add to that, I believe.
Sure. Do I need to reopen the public hearing?
Yes, actually, you do. Thank you.
I'd like to reopen the public hearing on case 16008 VA for a clarification from the applicant.
Please correct me if I'm not right here. We're talking about this
Yeah,
variance here, and I think that Peter drew it that way because right along, in between Mr. Giles' property and ours, it's a country road. And he is hoping that Mr. Guile, when he does use that property, would give us half of the road. So half of the road would be his and half the road would be ours, is my understanding of that.
well, he just said that was a possibility.
Not that it's important to us now, but just looking, at possible other scenarios, he thought he would draw it up that way.
So let me just try to understand what you're saying. To the right of your property, there's a road.
A country road.
What's a country road?
It's not used, it's not
Dirt.
plowed or paved or,
Okay, so that's is it a public right-of-way?
The public road.
It's a
farmer's-
public-
It was a farmer's road. Right?
Then you do own halfway to the middle of it, probably.
That's the town owns that, don't they?
No, the old roads are rights of way. The town has the right to pass and repass, the public has the right to pass and repass, but the landowner owns the land to the middle of the road,
I see.
usually. Now, I'm not familiar with this road, I've never heard of it, but you're saying it's closed. It's not
Right, you
maintained
can't-
anymore, but
it's
it
not
was
a
a public
freeway.
road at one time.
it was at one time.
And so is it on your property, or does Pete think it's to the right of this boundary that he made?
It's to the right of the boundary that he's
So
made.
Mr. Giles' land would be on the other side of that road,
Correct.
the same way, okay.
Right.
So that would be an interesting piece of information to have. And if that were the case, the old roads are usually 2 rods or 2.5 wide? My sister was just telling me that today. We had lunch with her.
And that just substantiates my point. You know,
We don't have
you
enough
gotta be how
information.
far from a road, per se. But
I don't think that was ever a recognized town road.
Yeah, it was just a discussion, so I don't know, you didn't really have to bring
Right.
that up. So the problem is a 20-foot setback on the right, so just make it a 50-foot setback on the right. That's all.
Yeah, that's
As simple as
fine
that.
with us.
So if we approve the rest of it and make this a 50-foot setback,
Yes,
you think, I mean, to us, it looks possible, given that this is a 44,000 square foot
yes.
envelope.
And that's-
And that's the shortest leg of it, right there.
Unfortunately, the house was built too far over to
Over
the
on
left.
one
That's a
side.
hardship we're having with this.
Right.
Is that gonna create an hourglass? Which line?
No.
No,
Just the right-hand side, it's
So-
just,
Right
it's
side
just,
boundary, yeah.
it's shrinking the 44,000 square foot building envelope down some and reestablishing the 50 foot on the right, which is unnecessary as far as I'm concerned.
true.
That's reasons.
Are you comfortable with that, Kevin?
I'd rather see it
I'd rather see it,
than vote tonight.
come to a meeting and
First.
the 50.
They're not.
You'd rather see the 50-foot?
We can
We could do
we
that.
can do
is what I'm
that by
saying. And
condition.
They're saying that, well,
We can do that by condition.
You mean, insert that in our motion with the condition that?
That
This boundary
side
be
lot,
changed?
that side lot boundary be changed to a 50-foot setback. That's easily within our purview. And it contradicts nothing, as far as I'm concerned. Other than it's what they've asked for.
And it alleviates the abutter's concern, I believe.
so generally speaking, the only roads that towns and the state actually own, are the new roads. They buy them now, but in the old days, they didn't own them. And most of Route 4 is owned by the property owners on either side of it. But most people don't know that.
I don't want it.
That's why you can't put political signs, that's my moderator's hat now. You can't put political signs on the section of Route 4 that's new, like the Durham bypass, is that state property. But you can put it on people's land if they give you permission. So you can see political signs up and down Route 4 on private property, because that's the state right-of-way, it's not their property. It's a different kind of,
Can you put them across the street
Right.
from Town Hall on Route 152? Because there's certainly a lot
that's,
over there.
that's exactly why.
But isn't that public property?
No.
No.
No. I looked into that several years ago. It's owned by a conservation group, actually. And I made them aware people were putting signs there, so.
Have you guys heard everything you need to from Demolis's for, all right, so I'd like to re-close public hearing, case 1600V8, VA. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you.
Does that concerns one of your concerns, or addresses one of your concerns, but not the poorly drained soil in the front?
Yeah, and I'll just go with it, we'll just go.
Okay.
So, would you like me to make a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I would love that.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve case 16-008-VA from Kazma and Jones Demolis.
Very close.
Stimulus.
Stimulus.
I'm sorry, Stimulus.
Yes.
All right, for a variance from Article 2, Section C1C and C2C of the zoning ordinance to permit a two-lot subdivision of their 7.416 acres, with the condition that the request be changed from a 25-foot setback to a 50-foot setback on the right-hand side of the property.
Right or eastern boundary.
Okay, that.
On the Giles.
The lot
On
and.
Guile Road. Excuse me, it's Jabig Road.
Jabig Road,
Okay, Jabig.
be set at 50 feet.
And that's what I said, changed from 25 to 50 foot.
I'll second that
And the
motion.
caveat to that is, and
50.
maintain a 30,000 square foot
Right.
buildable area.
And a 50-foot setback for the septic.
Right, that's the other piece that,
For the new septic system on the second lot, that they maintain the 50-foot setback
You
from
wanna
the
make that a-
for
boundary.
the septic. I'd like to make that a condition as well.
Okay, and that these, but that's, whoever builds on that would have to go before the planning board to get that approved.
Not if we've already put a condition on the property. That would run with the new deed and the new property.
Because we're granting a smaller setback,
Okay,
we just want to make sure the septic, which will not
go
take
with
up
that
any-
property?
will meet the 50-foot setback.
Okay.
To the sides.
Even though the lot envelope
Okay.
meets the 20-foot.
Second condition on the motion then is that the new property, which would be to the left of the house, be required to have the septic within a 50-foot setback.
To either
On all
side.
sides?
To both sides. And, well, yeah, all
Envelope's already
sides.
50 feet from the front and back, but,
He already has the 50 feet front and back. It's
Correct.
just,
And from the
it's
what
just,
Side to side,
right,
and away from wet or poorly draining soils.
correct.
Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you guys go. There's a 30-day appeal window, so don't start building yet.
But,
you actually can start building, but you just need to be warned that anybody.
No, they can't
appeal.
build, they haven't had a subdivision yet.
at least have them finish the subdivision plan.
But there is a 30-day appeal window, but I don't know that you'd get on the planning board's agenda within 30 days anyway, so.
Well, thank you very much for all
Thank
your
you, guys.
consideration and your time.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Good luck.
All right. On to our next piece on the agenda is our meeting minutes for June 21st, 2016.
I still haven't seen them. I'm supposed to go back and find them.
You can send it to me.
But we'd have them here. We should skip them both.
Skip them both?
Skip it.
I think I was at that.
June 21st?
I think so.
I think so too.
Because we had discussion of it before
I think you were here on the 23rd as well.
I think so too.
Yeah.
But that's the one you're gonna
You're busy,
postpone.
you're busy lately.
Right.
And I need to abstain from the minutes because I was not a seated member
For both?
for it, because they were both related to planning board cases.
Okay.
So,
So-
4 of you.
Oh, it's all right. So it looks like we would have 4 votes
Correct.
for each. But Bonnie hasn't seen either the June 21st or the August 23rd.
I'll send them one more time.
So are you guys okay with postponing those minutes one more time?
We're meeting again in a week or two.
I'm sure all the appeal windows have closed anyway, so I don't think there's anything major for a court case. We're not holding anybody up. So other items for the agenda were to discuss plans and documents. So I'd like to make a request. I know what Bonnie was talking about. I saw her email today. I know what she was talking about is that up until recently, we got mailed paper documents of everything, and then as the town shifted, we stopped. So in order to honor that, I think whenever you, or I don't know the mechanism downtown, how they get posted to the town website, it is you. All right, so,
And that just started a few months ago.
all right, so if you could, the day that you post those, if you could just email us and say the documents are posted now, as a reminder. If you can send the link, fine. If you can't, we know where to look. That also gives us a window of opportunity if we're having difficulty seeing or understanding the maps, that we can come downtown, get a copy, do something actionable. I'd also like to make a request that, I don't know if it's possible, but if abutters were notified that that documentation is online as well.
I could add a note to the public hearing notice. Okay.
I don't know when their letters go out. Do their letters go out the minute you get it or the minute? But you've got all the documentation from the applicant. But when, so time-wise, it's really your job. I don't know what you do exactly.
So if you guys are given the date, I send out the public hearing notice and then I have to send it to them in the newspaper, the website, the TV,
And
and the
then,
calendar.
and at that time, do you put the documentation online?
Yes.
So if you could just put a new blurb in the letters to abutters saying the documentation can be found online,
Yes.
zoning board agenda meeting minutes for that date.
Yeah.
It just helps them.
Okay.
Because, we saw tonight, the guy came in not knowing, but but right, he could have if he had known, and I could have if I'd known.
Or come into the office. It's been
Right,
14 days at least.
right. No, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you could just shoot that to us and just include that as, part of the template when you send it out.
Okay.
I think there's still a lot of us who are still learning the digital age, that everything is available all the time.
Yeah.
We need reminders.
So Mr. Colby and I discussed the whole material as well, and if you want, when we work the budget tomorrow, we can include an extra $200 toward materials for mailing everything, or we can try to continue to do for the whole year, next year, doing them digitally. What's the will of the board?
I think people that would like them mailed, that would be a really nice thing to do, because I do have a lot of issues with my printer, which even Mike probably can't fix. And it's not in my house anyway, so it's kind of a pain in the neck when it does work, which at the moment I have 2 printers and neither of them are working. So, and when we have material like this, if we could have it in a format that we can actually see the numbers,
That's what I was given.
well, if you could request something a little bigger, or blow it up. I
That's
don't
not
know.
much of a
Wouldn't fit on a
survey.
page.
I hope they didn't pay a lot for that survey.
Well, I think it's a preliminary, probably.
Yeah,
He's
it's
gonna do
probably
the
a
fancy
prelim.
drawings for the planning board.
But if that font was 1 or 2 bigger, we'd be okay, I think.
Probably 2 bigger for me.
I'm
I even
struggling
have my reading glasses on.
to bring my 4 eyes.
We usually get much bigger.
And then the other,
That's what he had in his packets.
and then the other thing is, we used to have decision sheets that we filled out. We were doing that as a practice for a while, and then we
Yes.
stopped. How do people feel about that? The written decision piece?
No, the chairman should fill one out.
The chairman should do it? Nice.
I mean, everything is recorded, so
Right.
you do have a choice.
Right, we do have a record of all of our
I
commentary.
think the only time since I've been on the board that we've met with an attorney, that was the one thing he stressed, that we do our procedure right. And that was one of the things that I believe we went over, was that we have that 5-point
Criteria.
criteria for variances, and it's a little different for special exceptions, I think. We used to have 2 sheets, we would get them every time we had a variance or a special request, or a special exception request, and every board member filled them out. So you justified why you agreed with each of the 5 criteria. Then if there's ever a question, there's the record.
Right, it's more detailed.
It's more detailed and it's very clear.
Can you send out those decision sheets electronically, or so we can review those before our next meeting as well? And then that way, if we have to make any edits or changes, that we can do that.
Well, but wait a minute, do you want it sent to you in the mail or emailed to you?
I'm fine with email.
At least read
I
it.
think those were built with, large regular fonts.
The decision sheets that I'm thinking you're referring to are just you fill in the blank.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but I think it has the 5 criteria listed.
Yes.
The 5 criteria, yes, it does. So then you would be filling them out prior to, or not understanding. what's going on.
After we make a decision, so let's say like tonight, after we heard the case, we made a decision, we would then take a moment to write our agreement or disagreement
Yes.
on our decision sheet, and then that would be part of the written record.
And it should reflect your vote.
Yeah,
Okay.
The board
I'm
members
not
vote.
understanding the whole emailing it to you.
so we can review it and become re-familiar with it, because we haven't
Okay.
seen it.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes,
That way, if it's confusing, I haven't seen it in a while.
okay.
If it's confusing or it conflicts with recent law stuff that's going on, just to review it and
Sure.
make sure it's updated.
Understood.
They're not part of our zoning ordinance at all, as an attachment or anything.
No, it's part of our procedural stuff.
Okay.
And it was information we got from a legal opinion.
Probably New Hampshire Municipal Association.
Okay, I was just
Yeah, I'm
thinking that
guessing.
it would be nice then to have it as part of
Our packet on a regular basis.
this, yeah, so that we
Yeah,
can,
we used to. We used to do them on
Yeah,
a,
we did it for a
After the
short
case.
while, like,
And we had a long break though.
we
know.
did.
Very
Now
long
we've-
break.
and now we've gotten
Awesome.
busy again.
Okay, so you want the decision sheets included, and emailed for review.
and then we'll put that as a discussion item for our next October 4th meeting.
Okay.
And
And
I-
then October 12th, we have a joint planning board meeting.
Yeah.
To discuss the most recent ordinance snafu.
I thought you said next week.
I thought it was next
We
week.
have
but it's the
another
12th.
variance request.
Maybe you'll be back in town.
I'm sorry.
There's another variance request for October 4th.
It's 2 VAs. And, that one I might go ahead and mail to you all, because it's including a lawyer's, it's actually all from a lawyer,
Oh.
a law firm. So I think I'll go ahead and mail you all that one, considering it involves the lawyer.
Yes. That's
so
probably good.
one of the two, or 2 equals 1 case?
2 equals 1 case.
Okay,
I would keep the $200 in the budget for postage, for just in cases, especially stuff that's from a lawyer I want to mail
Because
it.
considering right now, so we're on case 8 for this year.
Yeah.
And if I sent everything by mail to all board members, we would be over $80, just up to 8 cases.
Right.
Because it's roughly $2 to send everything out. per
depending on
person.
how heavy they are.
Right.
Right. No, I don't need to see everything, but stuff from a lawyer, but that's why I want to keep the 200.
Okay. This is the second time we've had something like that this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. I will mail those out tomorrow.
I'll assume that Terry will be available on the 4th at this time, or do we know?
Let me see if I don't think I've received any response. No, I haven't received any responses from anybody except for you two.
I'll be here.
I'll
You'll
be
be
here.
here? And you'll be here, okay.
What did I say?
What did I say? The date.
What did he say?
October 4th.
Oh,
It's 2 weeks.
October, you know, I had a-
October 4th.
October 4th is 2 weeks, correct? Or is it, it's not next week?
No, it's not next week.
No, today's the 20th. All right. I rushed myself.
What did I say, okay, that one?
All right, anything else from board members?
No, I was gonna look at the calendar, but you've already figured it out.
Okay. All right,
Motion to adjourn?
second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're done for the night. Thank you. Thank you. All.
Thank you, Joanna.
This was all.